what you see in front of you, this cabinet right here, this was a Pac-Mania cabinet originally that I converted over to a multi-game. Now you're going to notice that the only parts that are still original to this machine now, since I completely, this machine had a complete rebuild done on it about a year ago. So all the original, for the most part, all the original arcade panels and things pretty much were replaced, because if you remember, I told you that this cabinet had a lot of MDF like particle board construction. Now on this cabinet, the sides that are actually on the sides of it, see, these are all original. The sides are original. These were fine. I didn't have to do anything with the sides because these were actually okay. But everything here, from the top all the way down to the bottom, all of that had to basically be replaced because it had deteriorated to the point where it wasn't staying together properly anymore. So basically, about a year ago, the whole cabinet was taken apart and refurbished. All the old pieces and everything were replaced to see what I have now. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is on top of this is that this is a marquee that I added, a Namco Reunion marquee I added, and I put a light behind it. Now, behind this, there's actually speakers that are actually behind this marquee glass, and I'm going to show you on the other cabinet how exactly this is all put together. Now, another piece that's still original is the original glass that came with the Namco cabinet. The original glass is still in place. This is the one that came with Pac-Mania. This glass was still original, and it was basically painted with the Krylon paint that I show you in one of my videos on how to build an arcade cabinet. This also has the largest monitor of any of my arcade machines, the vertical type that I have here. I don't exactly have the measurements on the monitor right now, but I can tell you it's the largest monitor that I've used, and it's also one of the original monitors. This monitor being this monitor is close to 10 years old. It's one of the original monitors that I used. The control panel and everything also that you're going to see here and here. The original Pac-Mania control panel that I had, that's another thing they ended up selling to somebody on eBay that needed one. So basically, this is another control panel that I built from the ground up. I'm actually going to show you how the control panel is built on one of the other cabinets here and how you can lift it out to work on it. So just keep in mind, this is the original cabinet. This is a Pac-Mania cabinet that was converted to a multi-game. And this is basically what all my games are patterned after. If you see the templates and everything that I have if you go to where the arcade machines are built tour that shows my workshop, you're actually going to see a template on the wall. That template is the actual cutout on the side of this Pac-Mania machine. And that's basically what all the cabinets are patterned after. And as you can see also, something else that was done was the cabinet was lowered about 8 inches in order to allow me to basically sit when I play the machine. As you remember correctly, I told you that when I play my arcade machines, I like to sit when I play them. That was another thing that was done, is the cabinet was cut down to the point where I could sit and play it. Also, something else to keep in mind is all my arcade machines in my basement, they all have casters. As you can see, I can roll this. This cabinet, I can roll it anywhere I need to inside the game room, and it has casters on it that allow me to roll the machines around. Now I'm actually going to show you one of the machines that I built that's patterned after this, that are built from the ground up. Now this machine that I'm going to show you was built entirely from the ground up. It was built using those templates entirely from the ground up. I'm going to show you what it looks like and basically how it's put together to give you an idea what's involved in building one of these. Okay? Let me go ahead and show you now. I'm going to move the camera over so you get a better shot of what the machine looks like, and then I'm also going to pan down to show you the bottom of the machine as well once we get to that point. Let me move the camera over so I can show you one of the early models of the machine that I built after this one here. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, let me get this centered up for you here so it looks good. Okay. Okay, what you have in front, what we have here is this. Basically, this is known as a cabaret. If you notice the original machine I showed you over here, if you notice on the original machine that the bezel and things on the machine, the top part is bigger than this one. That's a full size. That's my full size cabinet. This is actually called my cabaret. Now you're going to notice that this currently has a 25th anniversary cabaret marquee in it. Basically, it's the same as the other cabinet. It's just a little bit smaller. I wanted to have something a little bit custom. So each of my cabinets, there's a few things that make each of them a little bit different from one another to separate them apart and make them unique in their own way. Now, I'm going to show you how the glass and everything comes off the top and what is behind the bezels that you see in front of you. Okay? Now, what you're going to see on here is you're going to notice that when I take this bezel off, that there's actually pieces of aluminum here. This is pieces of aluminum that are basically painted with Krylon, and what they do is these actually attach to the top of the cabinet. Okay. Now you're going to notice in the top of my cabinets that if you remember correctly in one of the videos I told you that all my cabinets basically use glass. You're going to see that in here. When I remove the monitor, the bezel, I mean to tell you, the bezel. If you're going to notice inside here, there's actually one of those little papers inside here. This is an actual marquee from an arcade machine. That was a Cabaret 25th Anniversary Pac-Man machine, and as you can see, I have it sandwiched between two pieces of glass. The glass basically locks into a channel that's inside here. Now you're going to notice inside here also that one of the things I do on my arcade machines is I like to use original fluorescent tubes. Now, one of the things that I did is, there's a company called Keystone that makes ballasts. I basically upgraded the ballast to a more modern ballast that will last a lot longer. I just basically used the holder for the light bulb, and then I basically replaced it with a new ballast. If you run your machines for a long time, you want to make sure that you upgrade to a new ballast, because what can happen is when they're on all the time, and sometimes I have my machines will be on 4 and 5 hours when Lester and I are down here playing in the game room. You want to make sure the ballast and everything can handle that amount of time that you're running it. So basically I use Keystone ballast on all my machines and replace the factory one that came with it. And then you're also going to notice what you can't see is behind this ballast there's a set of speakers there's one channel here, there's a left channel here, and there's a right channel here, and then there's speakers that basically shoot down, and there's basically holes underneath here, and that's basically where the speakers are actually. They're actually behind the tube right in here. So that's the top part of the machine. Okay? Let me put the bezel back on. Now, as you're going to notice, I have little pieces here that cover the side. Okay, and that's basically how the top of the machine is put together. There's a bracket that holds these in here. There's a bracket in here. And that's the actual bezel for the glass for the name marquee. Now you're going to notice down below. If we go to the next level, we're going to have this is the actual bezel. Now, if you remember, I explained to you in some of my videos that sometimes when you buy arcade machines, the bezels and stuff, occasionally the bezels and things will be broken. Now, fortunately, on the original Namco machine I bought it with, the glass was actually, with the Pac-Mania machine, the glass was intact and unbroken. Now, the bezels that are in these machines, one of the things I pointed out to you is that when I make an arcade machine, I always use glass. I don't use any plastic for the bezels. Now, I'm going to show you how the bezel actually gets removed here, and I'm going to show you how it goes in place. Basically, the way my bezels work is, all I have to do is I go in from the back of the machine, and I just basically give it a little bit of pressure, and I can lift them up. Okay, now you're going to see, basically the bezels, they lift out like that, okay? Now once I have the bezel out, you're going to see how easy it is to remove. That's what the bezel looks like, okay? Now you're going to notice this is a piece of glass, and you're going to notice that just like with the pinball cabinet, I paint the back of the glass with Krylon to surround the monitor. Now this is what the monitor looks like. Okay? Now if you remembered in most of my videos remember I told you that I use Samsung monitors? This is basically a Samsung monitor that's mounted inside the cabinet, and on the back of the cabinet there's actual mounting brackets, just like you would use if you have a TV mounted to your wall. That's basically what holds this monitor in place, and then it's bolted to the side of the cabinet. Now you're also going to notice something else I have too. you're going to notice that when you have glass on a cabinet like this, one of the things that this cabinet had that was unique is I actually made cleats. This is one of the early builds in my cabinets that I made, and I wanted to make sure I had cleats because I wanted to make sure that it was strong enough to be able to handle all the abuse that it takes. So you're going to notice that on each side of the cabinet there's little wooden cleats. Okay, what that does is it gives the glass a little more strength because it doesn't allow it to flex as much. When I originally built my cabinets, I didn't use the thickness of glass that I'm currently using now. A lot of my early cabinets, I used more or less more of a thinner version of glass than what I use now. I didn't use quarter inch. I used something a little bit thinner. I never had any problems per se with those glasses that I had, even though they were a little bit thinner. But basically, all my cabinets now use quarter inch glass now for the marquee bezels. But if you'll notice on this glass here, this is a little bit thinner than quarter inch. It's still sufficient to do the job, but all my new cabinets now use thicker glass, which is a little safer for me to use. So as you're going to see, I have cleats on the cabinet here that help keep the glass strong and also keep it from bending and things like that when I'm playing. And as you're going to see, I have the monitor mounted in here, and that's basically how the monitor mounts. In the bottom of the monitor, there's a little metal bracket that runs across, goes from one side of the cabinet to the other. That's an actual metal bracket that actually holds the glass in. I'm going to take the control panel out to show you actually what it looks like underneath so you can see what that metal bracket looks like that's underneath. Let me put the glass back in and then I'll show you the next thing. And you're going to see how easy it is to put the glass back in the machines. Basically, when I put the glass back in the machine, I just line it up like I had before. Now you're going to notice it slips right in place. Okay? Now, you have to finesse it. It takes a little bit of finessing when you get near the back of it, so I'm going to show that to you. Okay, basically that's, you hold it like that, then you just hold it down like that. And what I do is I get behind the cabinet, and then basically then I just move the glass forward, and as you can see, it slides down into the channel, and it makes a pretty strong glass when I put it on there, as you can see. And it makes it look pretty good when you have the monitor and everything outlined in behind it. Now, also you're going to notice under here the speakers that I told you about. These are the speaker grills. Now you're going to notice these are a little bit different than some of the other builds. This is one of the early cabinet builds, so if you notice my speaker grills are a little bit different than some of the other cabinets. These are some of the early speaker grills I used as well. That's one of the things that's fun about building the arcade machines. If you remember, I told you they each have their own, kind of have their own personality. Well, that's a good example how the speaker grills are different from the other machines that I have. These are different from the other ones, and that's little things like that add a lot of character. The next thing I'm going to show is I'm going to show you how the actual control panel and everything fits inside the machine. Okay, I'm going to zoom the camera down here so I can show you where the control panel actually is in. So let me get a good angle here for you. More. Okay, that's good. That's a good angle right there. Okay. Now, as you're going to notice on the arcade, on these arcade machines, one of the things that makes my arcade machines unique is if you remember, I told you that on the control panels, basically that I build these control panels from the ground up. Now you're going to notice one of the things that's unique about my control panels is when I need to service my control panels, basically I can lift the entire control panel out of the machine just like that. The whole control panel comes out of the machine like that, and then if you flip it over, just like that, this allows me, basically, because I can flip the control panel over like this, then this allows me basically to service the machine. As you can see, I have my trackball and everything mounted here. I have my joystick and everything under here. I have the X-Arcade control sticks that I showed you is also in here. The Build Your Own Arcade Kit box I showed you, if you watch the Build Your Own Arcade Kit, that's right here. Okay, I have my 1-player, 2-player buttons here. I have my left and right buttons over here. I have my fire buttons mounted around here and the joysticks in the center. Now you're also going to notice on my arcade cabinets that one of the things I have is I have these metal bars that run across. My cabinets are designed, these cabinets are designed to take a beating. So one of the things I had to do is, because I wanted to be able to slip the control panel in and out, I actually had to make this out of, this is actually like a door, like a kick plate you would get for a door, but then I have metal and stuff that's reinforcing this on this as well. And you're going to see also that there's stainless steel bolts on the cabinet that go all the way through the control panel. If you notice on top of my cabinets, on the tops, all the bolts and everything are stainless steel that I use for the top bolts on the cabinets. I wanted to make sure that my cabinet control panels were going to hold up to the abuse that I give to them. And I got to tell you, they've done really well. I've never had a control panel break or fail on me yet, and I've built several of them in the past, and I've never had one of them fail on me yet. So as you can see, this is how the control panel comes out. So basically this allows me to lift the control panel out. Now as you're going to see on the bottom, as you're going to see here, you'll see I also have cleats inside here as well. You're going to see, if you remember I showed you the glass. This is the glass bezel I was telling you about. It's anchored from side to side, and this is what holds the glass in place, and then the glass slides into this channel. Now, this is the same thing that I use when I build the control panels. As you can see, this is what the front of the control panel looks like. And then in the back of it, as you can see, there's pieces of metal that run side to side, and then these are all the bolts I told you about. These are the stainless steel bolts that hold everything together. They go through the joystick, and they hold everything together and keep everything nice and tight. And this is the trackball unit. And on the control panel itself, if you notice here, there's wooden wooden blocks, wooden cleats. These are actual cleats, and this holds the control panel in place. So if I'm banging on the control panel hard, this basically assures that the control panel will not come loose. And as you can see, this is all plywood that's on here. This is not MDF. These cabinets are all wood. Now, the Namco cabinet that I showed you, the Pacmania, that's more or less MDF on the sides because it was in pretty good shape. But all my cabinets are made out of plywood. As you can see, this is plywood here, this is plywood here, and this is all bolted together here. These cabinets are very, very durable, so they're designed to take a beating. So I'm going to go ahead and put the control panel back in. I'm going to show you what the bottom of the cabinet looks like as well. Now, as you can see, when you line it up, you just basically line your wires up, and then this just basically goes right in here, slips into a groove, and then that locks down. And then that basically gives you a really, really nice finish, and then this is the front part. Now I'm going to show you what the bottom part looks like. Okay, now as you can see on the bottom, one of the things that makes my cabinet unique on the bottom is these kick plates. Basically what I do for the kick plates is, this is basically plexiglass that's painted with, it's plexiglass that's painted with that black Krylon high gloss that I showed you about, and then it's basically mounted on the bottom. This is one of the trademarks this is one of my little trademarks on my cabinets. All my cabinets that I have this black, it looks almost like a black marble-like kick panel on the bottom. That's one of the things that makes my cabinets unique, is the fact that I think it gives it a really cool look, especially when you're in the room, because as you can see, everything reflects off of it, and it makes it look really cool. Okay. Now the only other thing I wanted to show you is I wanted to go ahead and show you a side profile to show you what it looks like from the side. Okay. Okay, this is going to give you an idea. This is going to give you an idea of what the control panel, what the arcade machine looks like from the side. Now, as you're going to notice here on this as you're going to notice in this cabinet here, basically the dimensions and everything that I have here. If you look at this, they're very, very similar. All the cuts and everything are very similar to the original Namco cabinet, the original Pacmania. All the cuts and everything are almost identical to that because this is a template that was used to basically build it. One of the things I wanted to point out to you that I really like about the cabinet is, if I show you on the bottom here, also if you notice that the cabinets are not real deep. They're not designed to be real deep. The original Pacmania cabinet was really deep. Basically, by using these monitors, I was able to shorten that up and make the cabinet so it's more up against the wall, which is one of the things I like about building these cabinets with these new monitors. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, too, on the bottom here, I'm going to actually show you on the bottom here, one of the things I like about having these Namco cabinets that I have. Okay? Now, one of the things I really like about these Namco cabinets is, if you can see in the photos here, you'll notice that there's a little bit of an overhang. One of the things I like about the Namco cabinets is that there's an overhang here. And if you notice on the original Namco cabinet, there's also an overhang on this cabinet as well. Just like this here, there's an overhang. So your legs can basically go underneath the cabinet, and then the control panel extends out. And that means that your arms and things feel a lot better when you're playing. And you're also going to notice that there's just a slight angle on it. This angle is absolutely perfect for my hand and everything. And I find I can play on these machines with hours without having any fatigue. And that's one of the reasons I like these cabinets.